I'm Saket Bansal and I run a company named iZenBridge Consultancy, and we are into project management training. So we help professionals to learn new skills, remain updated with the market trend, and we try to make them more employable. So that is what for the purpose we exist. And I have been doing project management before, but from last 4 years I am running this company, and I'm primarily involved in training, and I started doing coaching nowadays, and content development, and running the organization, and we do a lot of conferencing and other stuff as well. So good to have you all here, and today we are going to talk about a very hot topic of this time called agile coaching. So this is what I'm planning for today. We will go through learning and defining coaching first. So we will look at coaching from a professional coaching dimension. When somebody says coaching, what does it mean? Then we look into the difference between coaching, mentoring, training, consulting, those kind of areas. Many times they work together. So we need to see how and when we need mentoring, how and when we need training. And after understanding the essence of professional coaching, we jump into agile coaching. When somebody look for an agile coach, what kind of typical expectation the organization or a group can have from an agile coach? That is the segment 2 of this particular presentation. And finally, we get into the roles and responsibility of agile coach. At the end of the session, I will also introduce our newly introduced training program, which is called a certified agile coach, which is ICP-ACC. So there will be a small conversation on that. Today I'm taking all the queries after finishing my defined content. This is something unusual because I usually take a break in my previous sessions. So keep posting your queries as they comes in your mind. I will consolidate them at the end of session. Now, what is coaching? And that's a very typical and interesting questions, and many times filled with a lot of misconceptions. So we started running a poll, and this time we posted these polls on LinkedIn, as well as we sent to the registered audience. Though the registered audience, the response were only 17, we had like far many people who registered for the session. But I think it reflects the overall percentage thinking about coaching. Now, when we say somebody that we need a coach or coaching is all about, coaching is primarily facilitating the coachee in think through about his problems and finding solution. So coaching is all about fixing the thinking process. It is not about providing solution. It is not about you come to me that I have a problem in losing weight, and I do all the analysis for you, and finally I tell you this is your solution, stop eating sugar from tomorrow. So coaching is about not that. So it is not about that I go with a problem to a person, and the person does all the analysis and figure it out what should be the solution for it, and gives me the solution. So it is not about assisting in finding the solution. It is all about assisting in thinking about solutions. So you have a weight problem, you go to a coach may ask you the questions, what do you think can work for your style, body type? What do you think you can do in order to reach to a healthier lifestyle? So it's all about making you think, making you realize what is the possible solutions, so that I can have my desired weight, so that I can have my desired healthy lifestyle. So that is what the coaching is about. And some of the professional organizations, so we have an International Coach Federation, which can be looked as one of the authoritative body for professional coaching, and they define coaching as is a partnering with a client in a thought-provoking creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. So the idea of coaching is that engage with a client, get into a thought-provoking creative process, and this process should inspire your clients to achieve or to maximize their personal and professional potential. Wikipedia talks about coaching is the form of development in which a person called a coach supports a learner or a client in achieving a specific personal or professional goal. Now, this is how Wikipedia defines the coaching. In a general word, these English definition may look confusing. I find it's more like it's facilitating positive changes by improving thinking. It's more about creating self-awareness by showing blind spots. It's more about showing the mirror to the coachee that this is how things looks like, and you decide what do you want to do to reach to your desired goal. So the expectation from a professional coach is that coach trust that coachee knows a lot about his problem or her problem, and coachee is the best person who can find solution for his or her problem. Coach may not be qualified enough to solve the problem which coachee is going through. I end up giving an example of CEO. So if you run a company and you are a CEO of a big organization, you may have a development unit, you may have a testing unit, you may have a production unit, you may have a marketing unit, sales unit. So you might have multiple departments. And many times these department head come to the CEO for an advice that they're stuck somewhere and they come to CEO, what should we do? Now, if CEO start thinking and analyzing the data for marketing, he may end up only focusing marketing problems. So CEO can't get into the details of each department problem, and he might not be qualified enough to get into those details. The marketing head knows more about marketing than CEO. But the marketing head is coming to the CEO for the solutions. So what option CEO might have is that help the marketing head to think through and trust that marketing head is the guy who knows about the problem and the solution the most. The only issue is at this particular moment, he is unable to think through. So the CEO may ask, what are the possible alternatives? What all solutions do we have? What are the advantages and disadvantages of this solution? What do you think can work in this situation? What kind of a risk do you see in given alternative? What we have done last time, what you have done last time when you faced this similar problem? What should you do given this information available to you? So CEO is an expert in asking those questions. CEO is an expert of making people think through about the problem and solution, and that's why he is CEO. He is not a marketing head or a development department head. So in the same fashion, coach should not be getting the professional coach. I'm not talking about Agile coach yet. The professional coach is not expected to get into the details of the problem because he can't do all those things, and he may not be qualified enough to do all those things. But he facilitates the thinking process of the coachee so that coachee gets the desired results. So this is how the professional coaching is defined. Now this is the 4-quadrant system we can think of. At the top you can see I have written ask, and at the bottom I have written tell. And in the one dimension you have a problem, and another dimension you have a solution. The expectation from a professional coach is to stay in ask to about solution quadrant. So professional coach need to ask what can be done. What solution do you think can work in this particular situation? The professional coach is expected to create a mindset in a coachee so that he thinks about the solution. Now somebody comes to you that I am finding problem in running my daily stand-up in 15 minutes. If you ask him, why can't you do a daily stand-up in 15 minutes? What the person will do? His energy goes into thinking and making his point right, that why he is unable to do daily stand-up in 15 minutes and why his argument is right and what all problems stops him in doing the daily stand-up in 15 minutes. Now, rather than asking why can't you do the daily stand-up in 15 minutes, if coach asks what do you think should be done to make the daily stand-up run in 15 minutes, now the coachee has to think. And he may initially come up with, I don't know, but you need to make him think. And then he comes up with 2, 3 options, and you may challenge those options that you might have tried. Have you tried this option before? He says yes. You can say that, why do you think it will work this time? What different are you going to do this time to make it work? Now, by asking these questions, you are making your coachee put his thinking, put his energy towards the solution. Rather than coaches just provide you an information and expects you to solve it, or expects you to tell him that what he should do A, B, C, D, so that he can do the daily stand-up in 15 minutes. So the professional coaching is all about asking questions that lead the coaches towards the solution. And we can look at the different dimensions. There are different professions which work in a different quadrant. If I am a teacher, I tell you the solution. Right now I am telling you about coaching. So I don't know what problem you are going through or what kind of a solution do you need. I don't know your context, but I am coming up with a standard solution that this is how things works. And I'm teaching you Scrum. So follow Scrum. Scrum have been solving the software development problem, or follow Kanban, and this is how the Kanban works, this is how the Scrum works. So I come and I teach you. So a teacher works in telling about solution. They tell you what works generally in a given context. Mentor goes few steps ahead. Mentor works with you, show you how it works, may observe you, may tell you what kind of mistakes you are doing when you are applying a given solution, and the mentor works with you hand in hand to get your skills improved, to improve your problem domain, or to improve your problem solving skills. So teacher and mentors usually tell you about the solution. They help you to learn about possible standard solutions. Consulting and consulting firms, they do a research, they do all the analysis, and they tell you what problems do you have. They define your problem statement. So consulting, if you are hiring a consultant, he will ask lots of data. He will do root cause analysis, ask a lot of surveys, and finally will tell you these are the problems. If you solve, these are the bottlenecks in your development process. So when you are doing that part, you are primarily doing consulting. You are not doing professional coaching. So when we think of as a professional coaching as a skill, it's all about asking questions for a solutions and making your coaches think through, help them in fixing their thinking process and take them towards the solution space. Now, by now, we are purely talking about professional coaching. But in Agile world, the Agile coaches are not only professional coaches. They end up doing multiple things. So let's look at an Agile coach. And we ran a survey and we asked what is Agile coaching is all about. It is not about applying professional coachings in Agile. It is more about applying professional coaching, training, mentoring, consulting in Agile context. So as an Agile coach, you end up providing training of Scrum. You end up providing training of Lean. You end up providing training on Agile principles, mindsets. You end up mentoring the mentoring project managers, Scrum masters, product owners on Agile mindset. And you may end up doing consulting. The company may come to you, should we use SAFe, should we use LESS, should we use Kanban, should we use Scrum, should we use A, should we use B? The Agile coach may end up doing analysis and figuring out, okay, this is the framework which looks like working for you, and gradually it may work with multiple stakeholders to figure out how they inspect and adapt. So it is a professional coaching is all about mixing training, mentoring, coaching, facilitation, and many times the consulting skills. Now you may get confused that, okay, if I have to do all the four things, how do I decide in a given day what I have to do? Should I focus more on training? Should I focus more on coaching and facilitating? Or should I focus more on mentoring? So when you start an engagement, when you coach a new Agile team, the initial period, by the time they are into a very, very basic stage of Agile learning, you end up doing lots of training and mentoring. So as an agile coach, you might be spending 6 hours of your day in the initial stage in training and mentoring, and you might be spending 2 hours at the initial stage in coaching and facilitating. So you end up applying all these four in an agile context, but the composition of coaching part, where you make people think through about their problem, think through about their solutions, and they are the only one who are finding solutions rather than you, will comes towards the later stage of team development. When your team is already self-organized, then you end up doing a lot of coaching and facilitation. When the team is very new, they are just at a storming stage. They just came together. They are still figuring out what is product backlog, what is user story, and all those stuff. You primarily work as trainer and mentor. And again, this graph is just a notion, just a way to show that how your composition of training and mentoring and coaching may vary. There is a possibility that you may get a self-organized team to start with. In that case, you may start directly with lots of coaching and very less training and mentoring. So here we are taking a typical case where you are just introducing Agile and Scrum in a organization. So as an Agile coach, you may end up having teaching and mentoring responsibility. You teach them Agile framework, you mentor the roles, you set up the work environment. You may end up identifying how should people sit, how should they make their ground rule. You facilitate a process of creating ground rules. You facilitate people's their layout of their setting up their layout for their development rule. You may end up facilitating how they do conduct daily stand-up, how they take care of their geographical distributed team, how they handle resistance from individuals who don't want to work in open space or who don't want to work in an agile environment. So at the initial stage, the agile coach may end up doing all this stuff in a teaching and mentoring responsibility. And gradually, once the team starts knowing the rules, the professional coach starts moving towards developing the self-organized team, guiding them towards achieving high performance, coaching them. So rather than training them, now he moves towards coaching them to create their cultures, visions, coaching stakeholders towards agile mindset. So no more training is needed. Now it's a conversation which will help the coach to get towards the desired result. He can't just keep giving the lesson of this is a Scrum, this is a product backlog, this is how we prioritize, and these are the possible ways of prioritizing. That is over. You have already done that. Now, when the stakeholder comes to you and says that I can't prioritize, you don't have to teach them again. Now you need to understand what is the desired outcome the person wants to achieve. So after I am as a product owner, I have been doing prioritization and I am stuck this time, and I am coming to an agile coach and I am sharing my concern. As a coach, I can't just teach him prioritization, Moscow, and all those stuff again. I need to understand what he's trying to achieve and how I need to ask questions how he can achieve it, because he might be knowing the details about the domain far better than me. So I don't teach at that particular stage. So working with the impediments and ensuring the leadership engagement and continuously challenging the teams towards continuous improvement becomes a roles and responsibility of an agile coach as things moves towards coaching and facilitation. Now we spoke about agile coaching competence, and there is a agile coaching competence framework from Agile Coaching Institute. So Lisa Atkin and few of the individuals have created this particular framework, and as of now I believe this is the only one where we properly defines what we can say about an agile coaching. In this framework, the competency dimensions are looked from multiple views. So the maroon color represents a skill dimension where we are talking about mentoring, teaching, professional coaching, and facilitating. These are the skills which any agile coach, the competency for these 4 dimensions is anyway needed for any agile coach. The green color represents the domain specific skills. So an agile coach needs to have a competency in lean and agile practices, and agile coach may have one of the optional competency like technical mastery, business mastery, or transformation mastery. So if you are thinking of becoming an agile coach, you need to have coaching, mentoring, facilitating skills, and on top of that, you need to have a good understanding of agile. And the Agile-Lean Practitioner skills means that you understand the why part of all agile practices. If somebody comes to you and says that I don't want to write user story, you don't have to answer that user story is the only thing which is needed in agile and you need to write because we are using agile. You need to understand as an agile coach what is an intent of writing user story. Why are we getting into this type of requirement conversation? So we need to talk about the user story. It helps us in keeping things small. The user stories helps us in focusing on more on conversation rather than and documenting everything. It helps us in doing an incremental development, and it helps on creating engagement between business and the development team. Now, if you find something is not meeting your objective, then we can have a conversation. We may use something else than user story. So an agile practitioner need to have a good understanding of lean, agile, scrum, kanban, and frameworks, need to understand the values and principles behind those practices. Many times I find when we get into the meetups, and many agile coach comes and says that they are finding resistance from middle management. Middle management don't want to use agile terminology. They don't want to write user stories and all those stuff. So many times as an agile coach, we end up doing this mistake. We start focusing on terminologies and practices too much, and we stop listening. We stop listening to the people who are coming to us and sharing their concerns related to, say, any given practice of agile. We need to understand their needs, and as per their needs, we need to figure it out how agile practices, agile principles, agile values cater that need. And once they see that their need and feelings are taken care, they will definitely comply with what you are suggesting. Now, the optional skills, many times you find different variants of agile coach. Some you may find process coach, technical coach, business coach, transformation coach. So as per this particular framework, there are other way of also classifying the agile coaching, and one is like team coaching, enterprise coaching, and executive coaching. So I will just talk about that. But there could be another dimension that you may have a technical coach who is primarily focusing on coaching the development team on technical practices. So that could be a one specialization a coach can pick up along with the remaining competencies. So technical coach also need to be a good in coaching, good in mentoring, good in training, good in facilitating, and on top of it, he has a technical mastery so that he can coach and train people on technical dimensions as well. There could be a second type of coach who is primarily focusing on business, and he might be having a good experience in the domain you are working. So assuming you are running a BFSI project, and in a BFSI you have an agile coach who understands the domain well, so he can coach the business people, stakeholders, product owners well towards the business objective, towards the business strategies, since he has a good grip and mastery on business domain. The third possible specialization could be a transformation, where organization is moving from a one type of process, say waterfall, to agile based processes, and the transformation coach will have more expertise and understanding of various change management frameworks, where he creates the models, he runs the pilots, where he look at how much where the tipping point is and how a change can be bring into the mindset, into the practices of people who are following agile or who are moving towards the different way of doing things. It could be a transformation mastery. So as I said, there are three other classifications where people see that on the basis of the area where coach is influencing. So we usually end up hearing the word team coach. A team coach is a person who primarily coaching teams, coaching agile teams. Scrum master is definitely a team coach, and Scrum master could be has a good responsibility of implementing and following coaching skills. So the team coach is primarily a person who is is primarily engaged with the teams and coaching and mentoring and following all those stuff. Then we use another term called enterprise coach. Enterprise coach is expected to be mentoring, coaching more than one team. So assume that you have 10 agile teams, and you have an enterprise coach who facilitates, mentors all these 10 agile teams. Many times enterprise agile coach also gets into the transformation related activity, where they move waterfall teams into agile, and then they move on to other team, and they do these kind of transformation. And then we talk about a third area of influence, which is like an executive CEOs and CTOs, where we call executive coaches. So executive coaches works in a one-to-one environment, and they primarily influence, they primarily facilitate the thinking process of senior executives to bring agility in the organizations. And you might be hearing that without the top management support, without the stakeholder buying, these agile transformation keeps failing. And if you want to have a big change in the organization, you need to have agile mindset, agile influence at the top level as well. So executive coach primarily works in that segment. So these are the three different way of looking at agile coaching. So we spoke about which of the following tools coaches uses the most, and we got the number one is conversation. And you may wonder that what this job profile is, where you just need to talk. That's it. You need to have a conversation, and your conversation is the key. So in a coaching world, we believe that conversation is something which can influence and make the change in your thinking process. We perceive situation based on the words we interpret, based on the language we use. The idea of coaching is, with the help of a powerful conversation, with the help of powerful questioning, make coachee think through about their problem. So when you are working as an agile coach, you end up using conversations a lot. Again, do keep in mind the distribution of your coaching, mentoring, and training. While you are giving a training, you might be introducing the concept rather than just having a conversation. Sometime when you are working as a consultant, you may end up doing root cause analysis, you may end up doing applying your analytical skills, but in majority of cases, rather than coach himself or herself doing it, he may end up facilitating a root cause analysis workshop rather than and driving it on his own. But sometime as a consultant role, maybe you end up wearing multiple hats. You may end up doing some part of root cause analysis or some part of other analysis to figure out what is not working. Now we ran a small survey we did the same on LinkedIn, and we also did it for our participant. And interestingly, it is coming up with some competencies which are needed for an agile coach. So first competency was active listening. So second was powerful questioning. So I'm just reading the name because things are not that much clear. So first one is active listening. Second one is a powerful questioning. Third one is a skill in applying agile and lean practices. Then the fourth one was presentation skills. The third one was analytical skills, analyzing the data and figuring out what is the problem, what is the root cause. And the last one was meeting or slash discussion, facilitating meetings and discussions. So incidentally, most of the participants, be it at LinkedIn and be it at survey, selected active listening as a first skill for an agile coach. Now you may wonder how listening can make changes. In a coaching context, even if you come with a problem to me, and without listening to you, I may give you the right solution, but you will not implement that solution because you don't find that solution trustworthy. You don't find that person gave you a right hearing. And even if the solution is right, but there is no buy-in. And that's why Agile believes in retrospective, and that's why Agile believes in self-organizing team, because we don't want to copy a team A process, even though they are great, to a team B. We believe in there could be something which you can pick up, but you need to inspect and adapt and figure out what works best for you. Because my learning is my own learning, and I'm going to keep my lessons in mind. so many books has been written on happiness, so many books has been written for various subjects and various types of problem we are going through, but we don't look at them. When we face a problem, we look at our own experience the most. We may take some clue from those books, but we value our experience the most. So a listening helps you to first know the person's own experience, the details, and it also make the person heard. It has been observed that waiters who repeat your order get more tips, because as a customer you feel once the waiter repeats your order that you have been heard. So Agile coach need to be very good in listening, and listening skill is I think is one of the professional skill which is needed in all aspects of our life, and coach also needs it a lot. So the survey talks about skills in applying agile and lean practices, and facilitation skills makes a big change, and I think they are valid. And many times, in order to make a think through, the powerful questioning is another important skill which is needed for an agile coach. Analytical skills, presentation skills remains as a required area. In Indian context especially, I find 30 to 40% of the agile coach's time in a typical environment goes into training. So we can't undermine the presentation skill, because if you're going through a big transformation, if the people are very new to agile, you end up introducing agile and scrum initially. So you do need to have a good presentation and training skills as well, but gradually you move towards listening, powerful questionings, and other coaching related competencies. So we keep talking about growth mindset. We keep talking about that coach has to move from becoming a manager where we says, I direct people, I tell what they should do. We need to move towards letting team find the way. Again, look at the context at which stage of the team development you are. At an initial stage, you may give a model and say, this is how things may work. And then gradually you move towards complete facilitation where team figure out how they should work, how they should manage their things. Rather than becoming a subject matter expert, you need to become a facilitator. And I take this the IC Agile coaching class, and we simulate a lot of coaching conversation in that particular class. As I find the coach becomes too excited about giving the solution, it's a red flag. The point you feel that you have the solution, you have a wrong solution. So it is rather than I become a subject matter expert, I am primarily facilitating the thinking process. And I keep reminding to my coaches during the simulation, as you get a temptation to tell the solution, take it as a red flag to yourself and think that you are not doing coaching, you are becoming a subject matter expert. So come back towards the coaching and let the coachee figure out what works best in a given context. So rather than focusing on problem, we need to focus on solution. Now, as an engineering mindset, we always been a problem focused. If something goes wrong, we ask, what is not working? What are the reasons of it? Who did what? What part is not working, and etc. etc. But in a coaching context, you are getting away from that detailed outlook. You are getting away from that manager's team lead kind of profile. Team lead may remain problem focused, but when you are becoming a CEO kind of a coach profile where you are not that much involved in that work, you are just facilitating the thinking process. You need to become solution focused. You don't want to get into the details. You don't have a time, and you are not expertise. You may not have an expertise in getting those details. You need to make your coachee thinks towards the solution and make his mind and thinking process move towards solution. So that is how a coach mindset shift should start shifting. Rather than focusing on scope, schedules, and budget constraints, we need to focus on maximizing business values and delivery. This is a typical standard agile thought process. In agile, every individual should have this a thought process. So coach should start focusing on overall team improvement rather than this sprint thing should finish on time. So this is the another dimension which a coach should change his own thinking process, that I need to focus on how can I create a team which is self-organized. How can I create a team which is producing high performing? So that is your goal. You are not focusing on making this sprint pass or this sprint achieve their sprint goals. You have a bigger goal. Rather than judging and evaluating people, we need to focus on motivating and trusting people. Now, if I ask you that, do you judge people? You may get confused that, okay, yeah, how can I live without judging people? Now, if somebody is coming in front of you and wanted to have some conversation with you, you already know what kind of this guy is, because you always have your judgment in your mind. And if you don't have that judgment, it becomes very difficult for you to have that conversation. Think of you meet a stranger and the stranger starts talking about a given domain. You find that conversation tiring because you need to focus on what he's saying. You don't know he's an expert, he's a stupid, or what he is. You need to judge the guy based on what he's saying. But once you make the perception, once you have a judgment after meeting 2-3 times, and when he meets you a 4th time, you don't put that much attention to what he is saying because you already know what he's going to say. And in a coaching context, that could be a very counterproductive. So you may have your judgment, but keep questioning your judgment because person keeps changing. And if you label the guy that he is smart, he will remain smart in your mind even if he is coming with a stupid idea. And if you label the person as a stupid, the person will remain stupid even if he is coming with a smart idea for you. So we, as a coach, we may have some biases which will be there as a human being, but we need to keep reminding ourselves, this was my judgment, and how does it relate to the facts, relate to the conversation which is happening right now. So this is a behavioral shift, a mindset shift an Agile coach has to do. We need to focus on present rather than focusing on past and future, distant future. Now this is a very typical problem for all human. What we do, we either live in past or we live in future. We find it very difficult to live in present. Now, when you are attending this webinar, web event, many of you might be thinking, what will you do after half an hour when this webinar gets over? And many of you might be thinking what you did in a day, and that those thoughts are capturing your mind. And you don't find all your attention going to the current web event. And this is our problem. So as a coach, if we suffer this problem, it becomes more difficult to make coachee think through and improve their thinking process. So a coach should start focusing on present. We are here, and we need to talk about something here onwards. Many times in conflicts, in coaching conversation, people talk too much about past. 6 months ago this happened, 12 months ago that happened, this person did that person did that. And if you also join that conversation as a coach, you go into a forest of information which may be interesting but can't have any significant effect on your present. Because you don't have a skill to go in the past and change things and come back into a present and have a different life. So since we can't do a time travel, we need to focus on present and make our coaches also focusing on present. So this is, I would say, it's not a competence. These all things are not competence. It's more about how we change our thinking process. And you can put a label of a mindset on it. How do we change our mindset to become a better coach or an agile coach? So this is what I wanted to share about coaching. Now, quick introduction for ICP-ACC program, and then I take the questions. So we started into taking this IC Agile 3 days program, and it's quite popular program in Agile coaching. It's one of the, in my knowledge, it's the only one Agile coaching certification program which is the knowledge based, means you can learn something in 3 days and you get certified. Other coaching certificates like Scrum Alliance, Team Coach, and Enterprise Coach are skill-based certificate where you prove that you have these skills and competencies, and based off you proving that, they reward you that yes, you are good enough to call Agile Coach. So there is no expiry for this certificate, and it requires you to attend 3 days of class in person. And it's just a participation based certificate. So you don't become an Agile coach in 3 days. And I do believe training is the least effective way of learning anything. You don't learn anything from training, but training many times becomes the first step in your learning journey. You start from training, but the journey never finishes at training. And these 3 days of training can definitely give you a very kick start to your coaching journey, and you can build your story or you can build your coaching career on top of it. So it's a good program to start with. Primarily we focus on coaching mindset a lot. We do a lot of coaching conversations. We talk about coaching agreements, how you should set your expectation or team's expectation from you, and how do you make your coachee responsible for their action. How do you set up the work environment? How do you build agile teams? How do you coach them? How do you coach people on agile roles? How do you take care of various difficult agile topics? So we discuss all the possible difficult topics which the group might be facing, and we do spend good time in thinking about what all does it take to transform, to bring an agile transformation in the organization. So these are some of the focus area which we run for 3 days. So these are the dates. These all dates are also available on our website, so you can find details there. We are, as of now, have a scheduled program in Pune, Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi, and Hyderabad. So as of now, we have scheduled 2 programs in Bangalore, and we are already done with near 100 people on this particular track. Okay, so finally, it's time to take questions. Okay, so the great question which came is that is it expected that a coach should have solutions clarity for all the problems? Now, is it expected from a CEO to provide a solution to all departments' problem? The answer is no, but CEO should be able to make the department head think through about the problem. So it's more about that you may not be able to provide a ready-made solution, and ideally you should not be providing a ready-made solution, but you should be able to facilitate a thinking process which leads to a solution. Now, many times you have a urge to give a solution. When somebody comes with a problem, you want to give a solution because you know this is how it works. You have been working with that particular problem for 10 years. But keep in mind, your solution may be outdated, may not be relevant for that person. So it's better to let the person figure it out, that particular solution. You can suggest without attaching too much with the given solution. You can share your context, that this is how it has worked in my context. You may want to take learning from there. But rather than saying, just do this, is not a coach job. So if you are doing that, you might be becoming a mentor. So in a mentoring space, it may work. But as you move towards coaching space in your team development, you don't have to provide solutions. So what is the scope of an agile coaching in India, especially in Northern India? Any survey or supports that percentage of company migrating to agile coaching? So that's the question. So like, what is the job market for agile coaches, if I put it rightly? Go to any job site and search agile coach. The answer will be there. So what we have been observing based on these job sites, it is becoming a very desired skill, desired role profile, and the job site can provide you the right answer. Yes, in a northern part of India, the demand might be less, but again, you look at a job site, you will get the things. Okay. So we had a question, but though the person might have left, but I think this question makes sense. So the question was that if we don't provide a solution, we may get fired. Now, the idea is you are providing the solution, but in a different way. You are making sure that team think through the solution. It is not like that I don't know, what do? You do whatever you want to do. It is not. Definitely you will get fired if you say, I don't know what you should do. So if I am running a company, and I do run a company, and do I need to provide solution for all the problems which my people face? The answer is no. But can I run away without my people get unstuck for a given situation? The answer is again no. I can't let my people remain stuck somewhere for long. But At the same time, I can't prescribe which I think will work to them. So it is a balance. It's a balance that you definitely need at your team to see the light, especially in an agile context, but not necessarily by providing them that this is how you should go. Okay, so now the another question came is that can coach be blamed if team does not meet the sprint goals? The answer is yes and no. So it depends upon your coaching agreement. Be clear what all you are responsible for. Now, in a many environment in an agile coach space, you find agile coaches are working more like a program manager. Now you need to see what is your responsibility. Now people may label you an agile coach, but may expecting a profile of program manager from you. So you need to be clear what is expected from you. If you are a program manager, your role and responsibility primarily becomes managing interdependency amongst the team, resolving the impediments, and making things transparent, and you become a chief scrum master, and your overall goal is keep the whole program on track. So if you are becoming a program manager, then you may be responsible for direct deliveries. If you are not a program manager, you are an agile coach, still you are responsible for making your team perform better, making your team achieve the business results. So it's not necessarily about a specific things. You can't run away from a responsibility that I don't know, team is not performing, what do I do? Now, have you shown the right indicators to your development team? Let's take an example. You hired a coach, a fitness coach, and you want to have a fitter body in 6 months' time. Fitness coach and you had a conversation, and you had a great plan, and you started working on your fitness. Now, after 2 weeks, you don't see any improvement. Now, who should be blamed? Is it you as an individual who is a coachee, or a coach? The answer is there could be an issue at both the places. Now, how do we ensure that we reflect and we show these issues early? By inspecting and taking clue on a regular interval. We can't just say after 6 months you will lose the weight. You come to me after 6 months and you just follow my advice for 6 months. We need to have a small targets. We need to have a small responsibility areas, indicators, and we need to make each other responsible for that. And if we keep reflecting on those milestones, if things are not working out, they will be known in advance. If the coach is unable to provide you a right advice, it will be known in advance. If the coach is unable to follow the advice, it will be known well in advance. And that is the only way to clear your responsibility without running away from responsibility. Okay, so what is the domain mastery? So that was a question. It is more about knowing about the business domain, helping people. So it's more like coaching people from a product owner perspective, you can think like. So the way you have a scrum master, coaches usually work a lot with the scrum master, but you may have a coach which primarily works with product owners because they understand the domain well. So that could be a domain mastery area. So does the technical coach has to do a DevOps and other engineering practices? Again, depending upon the job description which you are working on, but in majority of cases, the answer is yes. Okay, so if any organization is looking for the matrices and figuring out how effective the agile coach are, what can these matrices be? And this is something an agile coach should work on when he sets up an agreement. And there's some very important aspects. As I said, as a health coach, I need to be clear which all matrices will be evaluated and which falls under my responsibility and which falls under your responsibility. And overall, it's not about my and your responsibility, which ensures that we are on a right track. So in a coaching assignment, depending upon the context you are, you need to find out indicators. You need to find out maybe you can call them matrices, which shows are the coaching assignment is moving in a right direction. It could be awareness of agile. It could be the product, the meeting the business expectation by the development team. It could be a conflict level in the development team. It could be a customer satisfaction which the development team is getting on sprint on sprint. And if you can have a business value delivered, usually it is difficult in a development environment, but if you have that, that could be another metrics to be looked into. Now we have many questions. So difference between letting team find the way and coaching team. So I think we have covered that. Okay, so there are some specific certification questions. So how the agile coaching is linked and different with PMI-ACP. So PMI-ACP is a generic agile certificate, and it does not primarily focuses on agile coaching, though one of the reference book for PMI-ACP is Coaching Agile Team. So it gives you that foundation for agile coaching. But if you go through that particular book, but as far as exam is concerned, it gives a little bit less percentage on coaching related domains. So yeah. Now people are the question is comes that how PMP, CSM and PMP plus agile coach produces the synergy effect. I would say that you need to judge yourself or evaluate yourself and figure it out that is this coaching stuff works for you. It's not that easy. Doing this conversation and influencing people to do something without having a direct control on them is a difficult job. Many times we as a project manager has an habit of having lots of authority, and people don't deny what we recommend to them. So and we feel pride of doing customer engagement and finally taking care of delivery and removing impediments. So if you love that part, the coaching may not be a right job profile for you, because coaching makes you an indirect influencer. It's an influencer without authority. It's an so you can, and if you like that, you can be a coach in your current job profile as well. You start using coaching as an approach and start moving towards that. Okay, so the questions I am repeating, this is how the system works. Costing and other details of IC Agile program is available on our website. Please have a look at this. So Manohar asked the same question that coach might be asking only the question and he doesn't provide the solution. So as I said, you need to make people think through. If the person is blaming this, it means your questions were not good. It's not black and white that coach will ask question. The question of coach depends upon your answer. The next question is depending upon your first answer. If your if your answer remains I don't know, then coach will come up with the solutions and recommend that have you tried these things, and then coach may become an advisor, and the coach may become trainer in that point in time in an agile coaching context. So if you find that your team is clueless about their problem, so they don't have yet a thinking process which can help them to solve their own problem, so in those cases you may need to train and mentor them. But once they have that thinking process and still you are giving them a solution, you are blocking their growth. You are blocking their growth, their solutions to a level which your knowledge is becoming a bottleneck for the whole team. So don't let your knowledge become a bottleneck, because if I'm coaching someone, I'm expecting that person to become greater than me, far more productive, progressive than what I am in that particular context. So just look at the context. Just don't become a black and white that as a coach I need to ask questions, and what if people start saying this guy is useless, you only ask questions. If they are saying it, it means your questions are really useless. Okay friends, so we are approaching the time. I know there are so many questions, so I can't take them much. Now please come to okay, so I can see a lot of questions here. What do I do? Now I'm confused here. So what I will try to provide answers. Again, as a coach, I tell that people should not provide answer, but I am a trainer here. So as a trainer, I will try to provide a one set of answers for the remaining questions, but give me some time. Those answers may come by Monday, and I may publish them in some form of a blog or question answer, and I will share my view, because I see a significant amount of questions which are still unanswered. Yeah, so I will do some part of content update based on that. And people who are too much interested in this, please join our IC Agile coaching program. This is one of the great program we are running, and you can get a feel of that program by watching some of our videos. Yeah, you will get the PPT as well as the recording of this particular session. Okay, thank you, friends. Thank you for taking time on today's evening and spending 1 hour with us and going through our program. It was nice to have you in this particular session. Thank you.